Om apara satchit sukhavari yasyor mimatram bhuvanam samastam guhahitam tam ramanam gabhiram chinta vihinam hradi chintayami. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Many of you may know, just a few days back, a book coming from America has made a lot of news. The book is called The Dopamine Nation. Perhaps the book especially hits out against the United States, the nation, the developed nation, the most powerful nation as is believed. For that nation of the United States is suffering from a big problem that makes the author Anna Lembake to call, I guess, the country the dopamine nation. What is dopamine? Dopamine, I am given to understand, is a certain hormone that is secreted whenever by doing something somebody is very happy. What is that? Doing what? Maybe eating a chocolate or enjoying an ice cream or go shopping and bring lot of things home. Afterwards, you may not even open those, but the very act of going shopping gives to a lot of people a certain hike, a certain kick. And modern science explains it as the rise of dopamine. And as somebody experiences that excitement, that happiness out of certain indulgence, indulgence is the key word, naturally one wants it more and more. As Nisargadatta Maharaj once said, our life is governed by two forces, desire and fear. Fear is born of the memory of something painful. We don't want it to happen again. We are afraid that painful episode will repeat. And then the second force is desire. That is more connected to our topic this evening. Desire, Nisargadatta Maharaj says in that great book, I Am That, desire is actually the outcome of a memory again of having enjoyed something immensely or intensely. You have enjoyed ice cream at that Baskin Robbins maybe a year ago when you went to that part of the town, and today when you go to that part of the town, the mind remembers, was it not here only that there was that excellent ice cream shop, and how good we felt, and let's have it again. Why does he want to have, why does she want to have it? Because there was a rise of dopamine. So Anna Lembake has written, being a psychiatrist, she has drawn a lot from the literature available in neuroscience, psychiatry, psychology, and basic biology, and all that. And she points out that whoever gets a little rich, little affluent, especially has this danger. They become so attached to pleasure, chasing pleasure. Eat this, eat that, go here, go there, see this, experience that. As we said already, It doesn't have to be a sense experience only. It could be like in the case of shopping, a psychological feeling. Ah, now I have this, now I have that. Maybe even the pleasure of paying at the cash counter or nowadays, swiping a card and you spend several thousands of rupees, if not more, and a sense of, aha, I today used this card, this mode of payment. As I said before, both humorously and seriously, many people these days in this IT age do not have time to open the box when they bring things home or when it comes delivered by Amazon or other agencies. It has come, they receive, but they get distracted, they forget. Alas. So, to complete this reference to Anna Lembeke's book, The Dopamine Nation, she in fact shows that the entire world is today caught in the seeking of pleasure. When you and I read a few pages of it, uh, freely available on Amazon website. As you know, many books that are presented in Amazon have a few pages, especially of the beginning, made freely available to anybody to read to get a sense of what kind of book it is. So I read at least 2 pages, and we in the East, we in India especially, cannot help but remember how Lord Sri Krishna had said this thousands of years ago. He had said, these indriyas which give you happiness, even this mind which gives you a certain psychological high, are great obstacles to know your true nature, which is hidden, covered by indriya, mana, buddhi. Indriyani paranyahuhu, says Lord Sri Krishna in the third chapter. Indriyebhyaha param manaha, manasastu para buddhihi, yo buddhehe paratastu saha. You must not get caught in the sensations, in excitements, in the exhilaration that happen on the planes of Indriya, Mana and Buddhi. Earlier you come out of it, the better. You need to know that pure self. Buddhehe paratastu saha. Sri Krishna actually draws from Kathopanishad. Indriyebhya para hyartaha artebhyascha param manaha manasastu para buddhihi yo buddhe buddher atma mahan paraha mahata param avyaktam avyaktat purusha paraha purushanna param kinchit sa kashta sa paragatihi are the two mantras in Kathopanishad which actually talk about the pitfall of being extrovert. And our topic this evening is being introvert, turning within. In the Kathopanishad, one of the most quoted mantras is where it is said, somehow it appears the Creator Himself made everybody among us extrovert. He made, in fact, the word used is Vyatranat. Vyatranat means, if you see Shankara Bhashya, Himsitavan. Himsitavan means, to injure. Let's say you and I are hale and hearty, maintaining good health, but we get injured physically or mentally somewhere, then you know what is the result? Our very perception of things around us, people around us, is affected. If you meet somebody who has gone through some trauma in life, No matter how much you try to bring sense to that person having suffered some kind of trauma cannot see life as everybody else sees. You know, there is something in medical field called PTSD, post-trauma stress disorder. I once in a while meet people who come to me for some counseling and they say, I have been suffering from PTSD. Then they describe what trauma they went through and so on. So, Vyatranat, the mantra is, as I said, much quoted from different platforms. Of course, among those who know Sanskrit, know some Vedanta. Paranchikhani Vyatranat Swayambhu Tasmat Parang Pashyati Nantaratman Kaschidhiraha Pratyagatmanamaikshat Avritta Chakshuhu Amritatvamichan. The mantra says, Swayambhuhu, that supreme self-born creator, made our indriyas. Khani means indriyas over there. Kha means space, akasha. Akasha, Vayu, Agni, Jala, Prithvi are the five elements. But in the Vedanta or Vedic philosophy, the elements in turn are connected to the five sense organs. So, depending on the context, the word khani, plural of kha, khani, can mean indriyani. And such is the case in this mantra. The Supreme Creator made our senses paranchi, going outward, extrovert. It is said that once in a rather humorous story which was made for illustrating something, this Atma, which is the abode of supreme happiness, was to be hidden. Gods wanted to hide the Atma. And God said, where shall we hide this Atma? To especially prevent human beings from laying their hand upon it. Somebody said, let us put it on top of Mount Everest. Another god, Devata, said, don't you know, many have already reached the peak of Mount Everest. Somebody said, go to the depth of Pacific or Atlantic or Indian Ocean. A Devata said, mankind has gone to depths of the oceans also. Somebody said here, somebody said there, somebody said North Pole, somebody said South Pole, all kinds of. Somebody even said, put it in heaven. And even heaven, these human beings can reach somehow. And in this humorous but very illustrative, relevant story, finally, a very wise Devata says, put this Atma in the heart of human beings because they are the last ones to look within. They always look outside. Nobody will find this Atma. And I believe that is how it was put inside the heart. So, Paranchikhani Vyatrana Swayambhuhu Tasmat, therefore, Parang Pashyati, everybody looks outward. In the second half of that mantra is the message of hope. You and I also can join that exclusive club which the Uttarartha mentions. Kaschidhiraha. I would take the liberty of translating it as one in a million. One in a million. Lakho mein ek, as they say in Hindi. Kaschidhiraha avritta chakshuhu. He or she turns his or her eyes inward. Not this charma chakshu. It is talking about attention, turning attention inside. Paschidhiraha avritta chakshuhu pratyagatmana maikshat. And lo, that Atma was seen, is seen by this one in a million who turns inward. Why would that person, lady or man, do it? It is said, Amrutattvam Icchan, or she or he very much wants immortality. The person, the true sadhaka, the advanced sadhaka with viveka or vairagya, is very clear that nothing in the three worlds can give to me lasting happiness, which is what I want. Therefore, Amritattvam Icchan, desiring immortality, this advanced seeker turns within. It is thus that the clearest expression of this turning within is given in Kathopanishad. Otherwise, it is said everywhere in the Gita, in the Upanishads, in the Puranas, in the Itihasas, and so on and so forth, through metaphors, through illustrations, through similes, through parables, through stories, through statements, do this, do that, imperative statements, and so on. In the Kathopanishad itself, for example, there is another mantra which says, unless you let go of your bad habits, bad conduct, sinful ways, you have no chance of coming upon self-knowledge. Don't try to have the cake and eat it too. You want to enjoy, indulge in pleasures of the world, where dopamine rises and you get a kick of some sort. You don't want to stop all those forms of various indulgence. Anna Lembuke even mentions the increasing attachment of modern generation to internet, to gadgets, to smartphone. In one of his recent talks, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, probably addressing a large audience of university students, laments that it seems the average use of smartphone these days in India among Indians is 6 hours per day. I also could not believe that the average is so high. But apparently, there are some people who never go away from the mobile. They take it to bathroom, they take it to toilet, they take it everywhere. And all the time they are watching something, talking on it, listening to something, and so on. They get a kind of a kick. Some escapism. They then become indifferent to duties, to things that need to be done. Alas. So, the mantra in Kathopanishad says, Na virato duscharitat, na shanto na samahitaha, na shantamanaso vapi kaschid enam apnuyat. Anybody who does not withdraw from sinful conduct, from conduct which makes him or her more and more dependent on sense pleasures. Sri Krishna in the Gita elaborates on it. Yehi samsparshaja bhogaha, enjoyments which arise out of a contact between sense organ, indriya, and sense object, vishaya. That is called samsparshaja bhoga. Yehi samsparshaja bhoga dukkha yonaya evate adyantavanta kaunteya nate shuramate buddha. If you are wise, sooner or later you will say enough. I don't want to get into these enjoyments where there is a contact between sense objects and sense organs. What under the sun do you mean? If you ask, the wise person says, I am now interested in establishing myself in the natural happiness of the pure self, which is not caused by ice cream or a gadget or some other, right? which is uncaused, unalloyed happiness. Therefore, Upanishad says, na avirataha prajnanena enam apnuyat. That means virataha. You see, na and avirataha has two negatives. If you remove both, then you get the meaning. Virataha, someone who has withdrawn from forms of pleasure where there is indulgence, either of the senses or even of the mind. You get very attached to praise. You get very attached to being talked well of. You get very attached to your name coming in the newspapers, your picture coming in some social media, suppose. There, it is mental level. You get so happy seeing your own picture on the media, etc. That is also this kind of bhoga. So, the other Upanishads, to my knowledge, I should explore more, but it seems to me, do not put it so explicitly. But we do have, let's start with some of the Upanishads in the traditional order. Ishakena Kata Mundaka Itre Taitriya Prashna Mandukya Brahadarnika Chandogya Shweta Shwetara Kaivalya, etc. I'm not going to draw from all of them, but in that sequence, if you pick up, for example, Ishavasya Upanishad, towards the end, in the 15th mantra, the devotee who has seen life, who has noticed the dangerous pitfalls of life, makes a fervent prayer to the Supreme Lord. Again, one more famous mantra. Hiranmayena patrena satyasyapi hitam mukham tattvam pushannapavranu satya dharmaya drishtaye. So on the surface, it doesn't seem to be talking about turning within, but it is in fact about turning within. The devotee says over there, the face of truth is covered by a gold lid. O Supreme Lord, calling him Pushan, O the sun, O the source of all light, Apavranu, remove that lid, that cover, so that I may see the truth as it is. Now that lid is not out there, that gold lid is in here. When we have a notion, this sense object, that name, this fame, sitting on that chair, going to that place, going to Dubai festival and returning with lots of things we purchased in Dubai, will make me very happy. That notion to attach happiness to indulgence in the world is referred to by the gold or golden lid. Hiranmayena patrena. Patra here is cover or lid. The king Yayati in those stories of Ramayana and Mahabharata enjoyed and enjoyed and enjoyed, and yet he was unable to get out of it. And he goes old, he gets old. In the well-known story, Yayati, the old king, begs of his 8 sons to give him for a while their youthfulness so that he can enjoy for some more time. One by one, the first 7 sons flatly refuse. The 8th son, who was a young fellow, maybe 18 or 19 years old, says, Father, there is no question of my saying no. Take my youth, and I take your old age for some time, as much as you like. In this fascinating story, Yayati borrows age transplant of some kind. Very fascinating idea. Yayati becomes young. Puru, the 18-year-old boy, becomes 96-year-old. And Yayati, with some special ticket he had got somehow, goes to heaven and enjoys pleasures there. Finally, he says, there is a shloka in one of the scriptures, Najatu kama kamanam upabhogena shamyati havisha krishna vartmeva bhuya eva abhivardate. When you put havis, that is ghee, into fire, saying, this fire is demanding some fuel, let me give it, it will become peaceful. Rather than becoming peaceful, upon our pouring ghee, clarified butter into fire, the flames rise even higher. Bhuyeva abhivardate. In the same way, najatu kama kamana upabhogena shamyati. Our desires for all kinds of sensual and psychological gratification do not go away by just fulfilling them. But we need to inquire, we need to study the scriptures, we need to do japa, tapa, and so on. So, Hiranmaya Patra is nothing but the chasing of dopamine. Our scriptures had told it. And then you have Kenopanishad. There is no expression over there saying turn within, antarmukho bhava, antaha pashya. That is not there. But at the end of Kenopanishad from the Samaveda, a student asks, how am I to know Brahma Vidya? Teach me Brahma Vidya. The Guru is dumbfounded. I was talking Brahma Vidya only, and this student is now asking, teach me Brahma Vidya. What was I talking all this time? Like you have a saying, right? There was somebody who listened to whole Ramayana and then raised his hand. I have a question. And the Pravachankar, who had given so many lectures on Ramayana, and this fellow was in the front row, and he is asking a question. The Pravachankar said, yes, what is your question? I did not get exactly how Ram and Sita are related. What is Ram to Sita, or what is Sita to Rama? That is how they put it. ಎಲ್ಲ ರಾಮಾಯಣ ಕೇಳಿದ ನಂತರ ಸೀತೆ ಮತ್ತೆ ರಾಮನಿಗೆ ಏನ್ ಸಂಬಂಧ ಅಂತ ಯಾರೋ ಕೇಳಿದ್ನಂತೆ. That's how Kannadigas put it. So, in Kenopanishad, there is a wonderful student who says, teach me Brahma Vidya. And the Guru understands, this fellow is dull-witted. This fellow has been indulging in pleasures. He attends Vedanta class, but even during the Vedanta class, he is thinking about some pleasure that he will enjoy maybe at 11 o'clock, at 1 o'clock. Right? Sitting in the Upanishad class, he, rather than reflecting on the Atman, is thinking a new Sharavana Bhavan has opened in this part of the city. In olden days, in Bangalore, there used to be this Kamath Hotel. Now also they are there, but they have sort of lost their shine, I guess. But vegetarians would fancy, hey, there is a red lettered Kamath Hotel. Go. Interestingly, Kamath means don't eat. Though it is not Mahaprana Ka, but Kamath, don't eat. Mat Kha. But, in good old days, in the 70s and so on, you are roaming about in Bangalore, you are hungry and you wonder where to have some nice South Indian food. And you see the board Kamath, no other choice. So imagine somebody studying Vedanta in a class or by himself, but thinking, I think today I will eat at Kamath restaurant near Lal Bagh somewhere. So the Guru understands. The Guru then says, my dear student, I said Brahma Vidya only, but you didn't get it. Don't worry, no problem. And then there is a mantra. Tasyai tapodama karmeti pratishtha satyamayatanam vedaha sarvangani. Take just the first part. Tasyai, for attaining the wisdom of Brahma Vidya, tapo damaha karma iti pratishtha. You need to go into tapas. Shankaracharya says tapaha is aikagryam. That is, when our mind, senses, etc., rather than going in a number of directions, all of them come to one place. I delivered a 1 hour lecture today at a college in New Bombay, and the students asked a few questions. The first question by a very good student who was listening with rapt attention is, when I try to study, 1,000 thoughts come to me. What do I do to reduce those thoughts? Young fellow is in third year, Bachelor of Banking and Insurance. There is a degree now that has come, I came to know first time, BBI, Banking and Insurance. And that boy asked. I told him some technique of breath observation whereby thoughts can be reduced. So here too, the Kenopanishad Guru, whose name we do not know, advises the student to go for Tapaha, which is Aikagram. Pujya Swami Chinmayananda used to say, let your mind be where your hands are. Even while making a cup of tea, the hands are making the cup of tea, mixing things, eating things, and if the mind has gone away somewhere, who knows? At the time of adding a little sugar, the person may by mistake add salt. Or sometimes you have already added sugar. Oh, I must add sugar. You put one more spoonful of sugar, and your guest says, is this tea or is this some new kind of sharbat, some sweet drink? Chinmayananda used to say, before you attempt flying to the heights of Vedanta, practice this, bringing your mind to where your hands are. Tapaha, damaha, train your senses. If some people don't like the word control, in certain literature, traditional spirituality is criticized for advising too much of control. J. Krishnamurti himself mocks at traditional spirituality. That is his view. We don't have to take it literally. But he sort of was very negative towards especially monks and sannyasis and Buddhist lamas and bhikkhus and many others who go into a cave and try to control their mind. He somehow did not like that. He used to say, in his lectures, you would find J. Krishnamurti would say, control. You want to control. Where will it lead to you? Your psyche will get distorted. Then what is he teaching? He has a different approach, which is a very lofty approach. Neither control the mind, nor let it go anywhere it wants. As thoughts arise, can you notice the movement of the thoughts? Notice the movement of the self. Can you be observant quietly, without bias, without judgment, without either resisting or indulging in it? Can you be watchful and let the intelligence deep within you operate and see the falsity of that thought, falsity of the value that the thought is chasing, etc., etc. So true. And only difficulty is most people may not so easily understand. Those who very patiently listen to Krishnamurti would understand, but people don't have the patience. They just say, "Ah, this is all Greek and Latin to me." Therefore, the word control has been used by traditional religion, but as you and I get mature, Dhamma, control of senses, doesn't have to be any kind of distortion or any kind of suppression, any kind of something unnatural, etc. As Eknath Ishwaran says, he prefers the word train the senses. Train your senses to stop after a helping. of a little bit of delicious food. Stop a little before you are full, and so on. Train. Don't go for the extremes. But Kenopanishad talks about that tapaha, damaha, karma, Vaidika karmas, certain upasanas, and so on. Then Kata, we already referred to three mantras. Go to Mundaka Upanishad. Does Mundaka Upanishad talk about turning within? Not so much directly, but in a number of illustrations, number of contexts, the teachings boil down to that. For that matter, Mundaka Upanishad says, Dhanur grahitva Upanishadam mahastram sharam hi upasa nishitam sandayita. Take the bow of Omkara and place upon that bow your mind, which is the arrow. Let that mind be sharpened, nishitam, by upasana. And placing the arrow of your mind upon the bow, which is Omkara, shoot the target, which is no other than Brahmatal Lakshya Muchyate. There is a powerful metaphor. Or for that matter, in Mundaka Upanishad, you will find the fascinating metaphor of two birds on the same tree. Dva suparna sayuja sakhaya samana vriksham parishasvajate tayoranya pipalam swaduvatti anashnan anyo abhichakashiti. The expression anashnan anyaha abhichakashiti deserves to be put on a nice plate and placed on the wall. You and I need to constantly remind ourselves this expression anashnan. You know what anashnan means? Literally, not eating. You and I physically also have the bad habit of eating something or the other all the time. I hear some people even get up at 2:30 a.m. to go to toilet, and on the way back they enter the kitchen and eat one chakli or muruku or something. Shiva Shiva. What an addiction! Throughout the day, keep munching something, and even when they get older, they don't reduce the quantity. Many of us do not feel much hungry, but if there is something delicious at dinner, we take some more and some more. Other day I experimented. I took a glass of hot milk after a meal, after some 10 minutes after the meal. Part of my mind saying, no, 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 this was not necessary. Somehow I said, let me have. I generally don't drink hot milk at night. Just 3, 4 nights ago, I took. Then I said, let me see my blood glucose next morning. Fasting sugar was 165. Not too bad, but not good. And following 2 or 3 nights, I sort of said, I must be careful. I ate modestly and did not take hot milk or some other, and my blood sugar is 108, 102, 111. So good. Then I said, for years I must have eaten things that were pushing the blood glucose up, and being diabetic, once it goes up, it doesn't come down fast in the case of us diabetics. In the case of normal people, whatever it is, with 1.5 hours, 2 hours, blood glucose comes down, right? So the expression anashnan is amazing. Anashnan means do not eat all the time. That is a gross meaning. But in the Upanishad, Anashnan goes to a greater height. Do not let any of your senses, or for that matter, do not let even your mind stay on in some, indulgence, daydreaming, building castles in the air, imagining, aha, At this rate, my business is doing good profit. At this rate, in a 2 or 3 years, I'm going to be very rich. Aha, I'm getting popular these days, and that very soon, in fact, I may be awarded special things for different places. Wow, this is daydreaming. Instead of doing what needs to be done, if the human mind indulges in some fanciful pictures and images, that is also ashnan. You are eating. Anashnan. That's where J. Krishnamurti comes so close to Upanishadic wisdom. He says, watch the thought. Don't indulge in the thought. Don't ride on the thought. This is my explanation. Embrace thought. Don't cling to thought. Don't try to control thought. Then what are we to do? Be watchful. When Madan, tried to disturb the austerity of Lord Shiva, all that Lord Shiva did was opened his third eye and saw Manmat. That's it. Manmat was turned to ashes. Likewise, this capacity to watch, capacity to observe without judging is like the third eye that you and I have with us. Let's use the third eye. Then we are anashnan. And what is the benefit? Anashnan anyaha. The second bird without eating. Abhichakashiti shines. The face of the second bird is radiant. The first bird is hopping from one branch of the tree to another, the same tree where the second bird also is sitting. The first bird eats this fruit, too bitter, another fruit that is sour, and once in 10 occasions, 10 times, the fruit is sweet. For a little of sweetness, the bird goes through a lot of sourness, bitterness. That is the life of most of us. For a little enjoyment, you and I go through unwarranted, uncalled for suffering, self-created miseries. So I would say that example or illustration of Dvasuparna Sayuja Sakaya in a manner of interpretation is asking us to turn within. The first bird is extrovert and is suffering. The second bird is introvert and is peaceful. I must tell you at this time what is the actual meaning of turning within. Turning within is misunderstood many times by a lot of people as some kind of suppression, some kind of hasty control, or some kind of don't see anything, don't talk to anybody, don't meet anybody, stay in the house. If possible, lock the house from outside. Even if somebody comes to meet you, he looks at the lock outside and goes away. There is a wonderful Kannada writer, Vaidehi. She wrote a lot of literature, plays and short stories and many things. She got so many awards. And just 2 weeks ago also, there is some award in Karnataka which is called the Jnanapith Award of Karnataka. Again, I'm not getting the exact name. That was awarded to her. And Kendra Sahitya Parishat Award and all that she has got. So in one of these little stories of Vaidehi, she talks about a wife who tells her husband, a very funny story. The wife tells her husband, please do one thing. I'm going to close all the windows, doors, etc. of this house. And when you are leaving for office, please lock the house from outside also. I want to spend one full day, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. But late evening, the husband comes back. I want to spend one whole day, in quietude. And I don't want anybody to call me, meet me, this or that. The husband says, what is this meaningless thing? Don't ask, don't do such stupid things. But she says, no, 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 you don't understand. Please do this. Finally, the husband does it. With a big padlock, he locks the house outside. And the lady closes all windows and she is alone for the whole day. And in that story, he narrates, I don't remember all the details, but it becomes an utter failure. The lady thought she would go into samadhi, she would meditate, she would do japa, she had read some spiritual literature. The lady thought she would have the most blissful day. On the contrary, her mind played so many tricks and she did nonsensical things in the house. And by the time the husband came back, she was more disturbed than any other day. She opens the door and says, thank God you came. It was such a terrible day. So, you and I think that turning within is that kind of avoiding relationship. If I may quote J. Krishnamurti for one last time, he said all learning takes place in relationship. Relationship is a mirror. You will know your problems when you relate with people. If you sit in a cave, you won't know what your problems are. Very thought-provoking statement. We don't have to take Krishnamurti's statements for full value, but it is thought-provoking. We do respect traditionally people like the Buddha himself who sat below the Bodhi tree for a long period of time and got enlightened. So there is a place, I guess, for certain exercises where we observe literal mauna, literally we do upavasa, literally we don't interact or transact. I think there is a place for it, but on a higher plane, and Krishnamurti generally talks on very high planes, lofty levels. It is true. It's not by keeping away from money or woman or position or glamour and glitter, but it is constantly understanding what this mind is doing. So the first bird which was suffering looks at the second bird and says, how come this one is so happy? And even as the first bird gazes at the second bird, there is a transformation taking place in the first bird. The Dvaita philosophy of Sriman Madhvacharya uncompromisingly says the second bird is God and God remains God. The first bird is a Jiva. The Jiva looking at God, adoring God, worshipping God, comes to the best possible height. That's about it. There is no question of the two merging into one. Shankaracharya, the exponent of Advaita Vedanta, says this gazing, adoring, worshipping, doing upasana of the second bird brings about such a metamorphosis in the first bird. The first bird no more remains separate. In fact, the third mantra has an expression, Paramam Samyam Upaiti. Adi Shankaracharya takes that Samya means Sama, being same. Sama, S-A-M-A in Sanskrit, and same, S-A-M-E in English, have the same meaning. Paramam Samyam Upaiti. The first word attains equality, identity, same identity as the second word. There are no more two. So Advaita talks about such inner change where you do not remain you. You merge with God. God is you, you are God. There are no two. Let's not go into those technicalities of Advaita. And I guess the Vishishtadvaita treads the middle path. Sri Ramanujacharya does not accept Shankara literally, but nor does he go that far as Madhvacharya to say the two ever remain apart. He, I guess, talks about such elevation of the second world that it enjoys great proximity to Sriman Narayana. So, friends, we have many such examples. Isha Kena Kata Mundaka. And in Brahadaranyaka, in one of the stories, Prajapati says to Devatas, Manavas, and Asuras. To Devatas, he says, Damyata, restrain your extrovert urges to enjoy and go on enjoying. To human beings, he says, Datta, share your wealth. To Asuras, he says, you have been too cruel. He says, Dayadhvam, Datta, Damyata, Dayadhvam. So in these three, to share what you have, to restrain from hurting ways, and to withdraw from pleasure pursuit, there is this fragrance of turning within. Let me, towards the end of this sharing, tell you about how in the Vishnu Sahasranama there is a name of Sri Vishnu, Adhokshaja. Aksha means all the sense organs, though primarily it means Aksha, eyes. Kamalaksha, Ambujaksha, Meenaksha. Aksha is eyes, but eyes represent all the five sense organs. Adaha here means not down but inward. When you turn your sense organs inward, then jayate, you will have the intuitive grasp of the divinity within you. That's one name of Sri Mahavishnu. And Ramana Maharshi, talking about who am I inquiry, gives the example of a deep well, an old well, where a lady loses her necklace and a diver comes from the town. The diver dives into the deep water of the well, goes deep down and collects the necklace. In Saddarshanam, you have that shloka. Upe yatha gada jale tathantar nimajya buddhya shitaya nitantam pranancha vachancha niyamya chinvan vinde nijaham kritimula rupam maunena majjan manasa swamula charchaiva satyatma vicharanam syat eshohametanna mama swarupam iti prama satya vicharanangam. There are two verses beginning with the illustration of a well, Pupa, and that actually stands for turning within. Turn within, and what is the well here? Our own thoughts, our own mind. Rather than looking at that wonderful jewelry over there, a very expensive new car that has come here, rather than looking at some handsome man or pretty woman or some beautiful house somebody has built and wondering, wow, what a nice, fabulous mansion. This is looking out. Even if you see a beautiful house and you enjoy its beauty, quickly shift your attention to the thought that enjoys the scenery. How come there is this pleasure in thought? Pay attention to the thought. Then you are already diving into the well. Pay attention to thought when you get hurt next time. Pay attention to thought when you feel lazy anytime. Because laziness also is mischief of a thought. Though you have had lot of rest, adequate rest, thought says, you know, you remember in olden days how you used to sleep for several hours in the afternoons? It's a long time since you slept like that. Why don't you do it today? Nothing will happen. A mischievous thought where really you have had adequate rest. You are very fresh. the thought says, chalo yaar, enjoy some sleep. Now sit up on the bed, or better, get up, walk a few steps in the bedroom, and then sit on a chair and watch what thought is saying. Thought won't give up so easily. Thought will say to you, even now it is not too late. You can go back to the bed and sleep. It will invite you to the bed, right? So watch the thought, quietly watch the thought. That is what is meant by Maharshi Ramana. Examine your thoughts. And in the midst of thoughts, as you examine and as you let go of your habitual responses, you will go deeper. When you go deep into the well, you find the necklace. Vindet Nijahankriti Mula Rupam. The source of this conditioned I, the limited I, the suffering I, the source of this Jivatma that you seem to be is actually Paramatma. That is the lost necklace. Find it. Get it. Somehow, I'm feeling tempted to say this. I was just reflecting and made some points also on my smartphone. What are the points I may share with my friends at the meditation and study circle? And one after another, examples of a well came to my mind. One I mentioned, Maharshi Ramana uses the example of well for self-inquiry, look within. It seems Shirdi Sai Baba was pestered by his devotees. Tell us who was your guru, what was the training he gave you. And Shirdi Sai Baba, after avoiding it for many days, finally said, okay, today I'll tell you. My guru was an old man in the forest. And the sadhana that he gave me was interesting. There was an old well, again well, in the forest. He tied both my feet with a rope and he tied the other end of the rope to a tree. I was made to hang upside down, looking into that well, and I stayed hanging like that for a long time and I got realized. Obviously, this was a metaphor, and Shirdi Sai Baba successfully avoided letting out his secrets, who his guru was, where he was born, what his sadhana was. He gave this metaphor. Hanging upside down with your face towards the bottom of an old well. That's how he got realized. That's turning within. And the third one is not exactly about turning within, but there is an interesting story that an old man was passing through a forest and then suddenly he discovered a tiger was about 200 feet behind him. He just rushed. To his bad luck, he fell into a well. You may say, well, it is again a well. Yes, it is a well. He fell into a well, old well. It was so old, so deep, that along or around the wall of that well, which was also in a bad condition, so many plants, what plants? Strong trees had grown. So this fellow hit against this tree and went further down, hit against a second tree. And then when he hit against a third tree, he grabbed the branch of the tree and was hanging over there. He did not fall to the bottom. Meanwhile, the tiger came to the rim of the well on top. The tiger was looking down. Where are you? How could you escape from me? Come out. I am hungry, the tiger seemed to be saying. Now comes the interesting part. The man is so frightened and says, my God, what will happen to me? He looks down. There is a serpent at the bottom. There is no water in this old well. Serpent below and tiger waiting above. He is hanging on a branch of a tree that has grown from the broken walls of the well. At that time, in a minute or two, he notices Some drops of something were falling. Then he figures out, he looks up and sees there was a beehive and honey was falling. The man forgets everything and stretches himself, extends his tongue, puts his tongue out, and successfully gets to enjoy some drops of honey and is smiling. There the story ends. That is how the mind of you and me has been extrovert for a long time, maybe for many lives. Sometimes we take our hand to our head and say, why am I doing this? Why don't I learn the lessons life has given me? And yet we do again the same wrong, sinful, stupid things. We are like that old man with a tiger above and snake below. He was enjoying the drops of honey. Not a question of should or should not, but try to understand his psyche. Therefore, Upanishads, Gita, Vishnu Sahasranama, and all other books of wisdom have talked about turning within. I must say, I was trying to say, and maybe I did not complete it. Turning within actually is understanding the behavior of our mind. That is all. It is not suppression, it is not control, it is not locking ourselves in some house, etc., or in a cave. All of them may sometimes help a little. We don't totally dismiss them. But essentially, turning within is I notice with alertness, with intelligence. I call upon my intelligence to understand why or how thought is functioning in a certain way. Why a certain thought makes me so happy, a certain thought induces fear, a certain other thought causes boredom, certain other thought brings about loneliness. So when the intelligence in us throws its light upon thoughts and understands the formation of the limited I, which we call the self, with S in lower case, not the pure self of the Vedanta, but the little self built by memories, built by conditionings, built by thought is understood by the intelligence within us. To give that opportunity to the intelligence within us to understand the structure of thought is actually the meaning of turning within. And Upanishads do a good job, great job of helping us turn inward, find out who we truly are, till we arrive at Aham Brahmasmi. I am not the little self at all. The little self is an illusion. It's a phantom figure. It appears and disappears. I am someone who neither appear nor disappear, who always is. I am Sat, I am Chit. This realization comes about as the result of wise, mature turning within. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya.